This is The Roxanne Show. Get ready. It's time to rise.
When you're striving for excellence in your life, you can't not ignore that part, right? You have to understand neurobiology, like the inner workings of the brain, the mind, hardware, software. It's only going to, it's an advantage. Like it empowers you and it gives you all this really important information because it almost can take the emotional, when you're going through something, whether it's stress or, you know, anything that we don't want to go through, let's just say like stress in the negative, right? Distress. But when you can understand the inner workings of what's actually happening, I feel like it takes away the emotional part and you get more clinical. You're like, oh, mechanistically, this is what's happening, right? So, I mean, for a neuroscientist, I just wonder when you have all that data, all that information, does it help or does it?
Yes. So the way that I personally work is I really let things, I sit with them a lot and I think about them. And, you know, I was talking to my best friend and I was saying, you know, maybe I should have ended the relationship sooner. And she was like, no, she's like, that's what I love about you is that when you commit, you're in. Like you're going to make sure that you've taken it as far as you can before you make the decision to do X, Y, Z. And so I don't do anything on a whim. And I really trust my intuition to tell me what I need to do. And that's based on your subconscious having this previous information of everything you've ever experienced. And, you know, you were talking about heartbreak and I was talking to a friend on the way here this morning and I was saying, it's not even that I'm afraid of heartbreak because I've been heartbroken many a times.
Right.
Since I was a child by my parents.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about heartbreak. That's the least of my concerns. I think it's disrespect. That's what I don't want to be like. I don't want to be subjected to.
Interesting.
And why this ties in is because I understand what heartbreak is. I have the data and it's still going to hurt whatever I go through, but I have the tools to be able to manage them better.
That part. Yeah.
You know? And I can't wait to get into this because we're going to talk about all of the mechanisms that are going on in the brain, but just to rewind it back a little bit, with the subconscious, you have a memory of everything you've ever experienced in your life, but you can't access it at any given point. You ever had that experience where you smell something and it reminds you of your grandmother or remember you having you were 8 years old and you're like, I haven't thought about that.
Yep. Chills. Yep.
Literally. And that's there. It's still in there. So the way that I work is I plant the seed and I know my subconscious is going to cross-reference with everything I know. And when I wake up in the morning, first thing, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and those theta brainwaves are still active, they're communicating what I need to do, you know?
I do. I literally know.
Yeah.
Because I have a relationship with my higher self. My audience, for the most part, knows, but higher self, future self, her name is my muse. And she will literally, it's like wild, Nicole, because at this point I'm so understanding what's happening, but I'm going from theta to alpha and she speaks to me. Like she literally told me the other morning, I'll just share it, but she's like, and I can hear her voice because I'm with her every morning in meditation. And she said, put the book out, everything falls into place. Yeah. And I knew what she was talking about. But it's just so special to hear that voice and knowing that that is my soul. That's how I see it. It's like my higher self see the soul. Yeah.
It's everything that you already know that is within you because we have so much distraction.
Right.
And we then start to get, you know, confused in the noise of everything.
Yeah.
But the answers are there.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it can look like I'm doing things on a whim or, you know, one of the things that I did a lot with my ex, I would build things up in my head and then I would explode.
Okay.
So something I need to work on.
Okay.
You know,
this is good.
I want to two sides of each coin. Like, I'm calculated, but I'm also like, you know, an explosive bitch sometimes.
Gemini. No, I want to get into that the narratives, the story, because I love talking about that. As a writer, I actually love the metaphors and the frameworks of writing, but it is so true that, and I just want to hear your everything on this. We all have our filters, right? And everything is ultimately, our reality is being run by the narratives, right? And internally. Yeah. So we can get carried away and create fucking stories that First of all,
I'm not
aren't even
serving.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please.
I was
run
with a
with
client this morning and she says to me, I was like, that's a story. That's a story that you tell yourself.
Yeah.
You don't know that that's actually what's going on.
Right.
She's seeing a guy.
Mm.
I'm like, that's the story that you have perpetuated in your mind.
Yes.
We need to change that
Yeah.
to put you in a place of power again.
Right.
And the stories, they can be good. I like that you say you've got this muse. That's a story. So now you're using that ability to create a narrative for a positive. And the story for me is that I do take my time with thinking about things, and I think a lot. I'm a big thinker.
Yeah.
Like, ideas business wise, I will plant that seed and I'll sit with them. And then I'll wake up and I'm like, I know what I need to do. Why didn't I think about this like 6 months ago? Work quicker.
God, if we can only, push the fast forward button.
Like, 1.5.
Totally.
I listen to all voice notes like 1.5. People think I'm a psycho. They're like, what? How can you even hear that? I'm like, I hear every single word. Don't you worry your pretty little head. I'm working at 1,000 miles an hour. Like, I'm there already.
I so get you because we're so similar.
I know.
And not to throw it all on the astrology thing, but no, it's the way, even I'm very similar in that way too, where I will feel into something before I need to execute, unless it's instinct and but when it's something that just kind of comes through, like I'm not flimsy for sure. So, and it actually, it helps because when I make a decision, you can finish my sentence, girl.
Yeah.
'Cause we're like,
If I decide to commit, babes, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm not half-assing it. I don't half-ass anything.
Full ass woman.
And that's what I love about what Caroline said to me. She was like, but that's what I love about you.
Yes.
And it's the reason you are who you are, because you don't half-ass it. And I'm meticulous about who I give my energy to. But when I decide that I'm going to give you my energy,
Yes.
I'm here. I'm available.
Totally.
And it's the reason why I've cultivated such beautiful friendships, because I'm not going to half-ass it. I'm either going to speak to you and be your friend, or I'm not. I'm either going to speak to you and explore a relationship, or I'm not.
Right. I'm right there with you.
And I love the Gemini thing because, as a neuroscientist, I'm a Gemini.
Yeah.
And I always speak to myself. But I remember having this meditation where I remember I was going through a really hard time, really like one of the lowest points of my life. And I remember being in this yoga class, and I remember seeing like a version of me that was like, I was lying down and she was kind of like looking up and she was going, the coast is clear. You don't have to be afraid of everything all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. So I consult that
Yes.
Nick as well.
Yes.
That split personality. I knew you'd love that. I was like, I got to throw it in there. It's like sweet.
That's like an unfair advantage.
Which one you want me to do today?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll wake up dead, might wake up getting head. Who knows? Sorry, that's so rude. You might want to cut that out.
I love it. I'm like, oh no. Well, let me take us back to the stories. The relationship part. That you had. You were building up stories. Things were essentially. The relationship was, you were growing apart, right? There were things happening there. And so that was part of the blockage, right? While the book and everything else. And
I
it
was
was
in
kind
a
of
whirlwind.
You were in a whirlwind. Yeah,
There's
totally.
a lot going on.
Yeah.
But I really want to discuss the separation, the breakup. We were engaged because it's been a wonderful experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a narrative that I want to challenge because, of course, breakups suck.
Yeah, sure.
And some can get nasty. But, you're always hearing about breakups being so awful, which they're not nice. But this is the first time in my life that I'm experiencing this, where I'm like, wow, we're consciously uncoupling.
Yes.
There's a lot of respect.
Yes.
George and I have always been very respectful to one another. We haven't fought ugly to a degree.
Yeah.
We call each other names, none of that.
You just never disrespected each other. Yes.
And so I'm not going to begin disrespecting you now.
Right.
And of course we cross lines and boundaries sometimes, but we've been really good at being able to stay corpus mentis, for lack of a better term, during this period.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
No, I love that you want to open this up because, first of all, I think it's important because always pretty much the dominant conversation is breakups suck. It's painful. It's just all in this negative context. Yeah. And I've shared once actually I was guesting on a podcast, but I actually walk through, I also have an experience in my life, one of the greatest loves of my life, who's one of my best friends still to this day. But he's the only man who ever broke up with me. So he's like, and I was not ready. And I want to get into your stuff, but I just want to highlight that I've had an experience where, and I really believe because the respect was there full time throughout the whole relationship.
For you.
Yeah, for both of us.
Yeah.
So that even when the breakup came, even though it devastated me, I wasn't ready for it. I didn't want it. That respect, that foundation was so strong that it was like, okay.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah.
And we're just going to have to fucking get through this.
Yeah.
But it really, I think this is the other part that's so important is that I love him more than ever. He loves me more than ever. Yeah, it's not romantic, but because the respect was strong and we were able to navigate it in that way, there was no failure. It went where it was supposed to go.
That's it. We put so much emphasis on the end being a bad thing. So let's unpack some of those, like the qualities that it takes for one to maybe put their ego away. For example, I messaged him a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so ago, saying, this is the first time that I think I'm really grieving our relationship. Because up until then, like I'd been okay. And I was like, I feel like at some point I need to feel pain.
Yeah, pain, right.
Yeah. And I did. And I messaged him and he said, I know that it's really hard, but we did the right thing.
Wow.
And my heart was like, yes. And I felt so good. Yeah. But this is where the narratives come in. The narrative could have been, oh, he's over me. Let's latch on. Let's keep that string there, which is what people do in relationships because the ego doesn't want to let go. Whereas for me, I was like, this is the most beautiful response I could have got from this because it's acknowledging that I'm a human that feels things, but it's still the right decision. Yeah. And that's the duality there, is that you can still feel a particular way about somebody or something, grieve it, but not want it.
Totally. Absolutely.
And we get those things confused.
Yes.
The liking and the wanting sometimes.
1,000%.
And they're different pathways in the brain as well.
You
can want something, but not like it.
Wait, double click on that, please. That's interesting. Yeah.
Wanting and liking are two different pathways in the brain, meaning that you can override the liking part of something just to attain it. Because dopamine will put you in that state of drive to get it. The obvious explanation or example is drug addiction.
Yeah. You
want it, but you don't like it.
Yeah.
But you do it anyway.
Wow.
And when you understand that there's a separation in those two systems, your life will become a lot easier.
Sure.
Because you start to see that sometimes you want something, but it's not good for you.
Right.
Thanks so much for listening, you guys. Please like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review.